104.5, The Team, your home for New York sports. We're joined by part of the SEC network for ESPN. He also covers, actually is the voice of the Columbia Fireflies, the new home of Tim Tebow. Kevin Fitzgerald joins us. Kevin, take us through the moments when you found out Tim Tebow was coming to Columbia this summer.
Pretty exciting, huh, guys? It really is going to be. And remember, the Mets signed Tebow in September, so this had been out there, or many knew of his baseball journey for many, many months, and there was a lot he had to go through. Of course, he goes through the Instructional League and the Arizona Fall League, but I think once he was there for spring training, it really set in, hey, this is happening. So just knowing and speaking with Sandy Alderson, the general manager of the Mets, and Terry Collins throughout spring training, we had a real general sense that there was a good chance that he was likely going to start in Columbia. I mean, we were fairly confident it was going to happen, and one of the reasons why is, Sandy had made a mention of that a while back. Hey, we're going to start him in a full season affiliate. We don't want him to stick an extended spring training, and that pretty much nixed the potential plan for starting in Brooklyn, which is the short season New York Mets affiliate, or even lower. So we knew there was a fairly good chance, as we're connecting the dots, that, hey, it makes sense to probably start him at an A-ball affiliate. Is it St. Lucie? Or is it going to be Columbia? St. Lucie's the high A affiliate, and then Columbia down here in South Carolina, we're the low A affiliate. So if you look at some of the numbers, too, he performed a little better against A-ball talent than he did against the AA guys and AAA guys of the Arizona Fall League. So we had a really good sense that it was probably going to happen. And then as spring training plays out, we got the indication that it may end up happening soon. And, I think from a Mets perspective, get out of the way, let everyone know where he's going to start, and we can kind of refocus on baseball. But exciting down here, that's for sure. I mean, it really is exciting. Remember, he played football here. I mean, he played football a couple miles from where I'm sitting right now. Spirit Communications Park is the home of the Columbia Fireflies, and he played at Williams-Brice Stadium, and he tore up USC a couple times, South Carolina during his playing days. So many have not forgotten about that. Florida came in here as the number one ranked team in the country. One of their two occasions. So many fans around here don't forget that. But hey, he's a national figure. We know that. We know the Tebow storyline. So people want to see him play, and that's really exciting. They want to see what the talent is like. If it's the real deal. He's got a lot of ground to make up. He's 29, but people are going to want to see it. It's exciting.
Kevin, you said at one point, get back to baseball. Kevin Fitzgerald with us, the voice of the Columbia Fireflies. Is there a part of you that is a little concerned that this is just going to turn into a total circus?
Well, here's the thing. There are many that are just, they don't like the idea of him pursuing the baseball thing. I think if a guy wants to go pursue it, by all means, go ahead and do it. And that's the decision that he's made. Now, to answer your question, the reason why I don't think it's going to turn too much into that, or it's not going to be a distraction perhaps, is that he's juggled situations like this all throughout his career, and the word from down in spring training is it really is not the biggest issue as many are making it out to be. If anything, he's really a great figure, as many Mets players and coaches have already said. He's really great to have in the clubhouse. And the good part is you're kind of getting the novelty of it out of the way. His first game was a bit of a circus, you could say, down in spring training in St. Lucie, but it's good that you're kind of getting the novelty of it out of the way. When you get here, it's baseball time. If anything, it is already baseball time, but there are many that are still adjusting to it. So you never know what to expect. And you know what? That's really what this level is. Like, you have to throw the expectations out the window. You don't know what's going to happen. So it's a league that's full of 20 to 23-year-olds primarily. I think many are excited to have him around. Like, that's a good resource to have in your clubhouse. And remember, no one has ever described Tim Tebow as someone who is standoffish or truculent or whatnot. So I think you have to put that to bed. He's a figure that is a great resource for some of these guys. And then, like you said, it gets down to the baseball part, and that's the key. How can he progress? Can he progress quickly? The expectations are always really out the window at an A-ball affiliate, because a lot of the times it's the part of baseball that's the failure. If you have a young prospect that fails one season at the A-ball level, that's great for the development. Then you can tinker with the swing, the rotation, the pitching motion. So all that stuff factors into it. So the expectation thing, it's tough to try to predict. But he does, you want him to move a bit quickly here. He's 29 years old. So we'll see. We'll see. He has done pretty, not as bad as probably many have figured from a baseball standpoint down in spring training. He's really held his own, again, against major league talent. So you start him here is probably the right place to put him at, considering, what he had done in not only spring training, but the Arizona Fall League and the Instructional League as well.
Kevin Fitzgerald joins us right now, voice of the Columbia Fireflies and part of the SEC Network on ESPN.
Yeah, let's swing it over to that SEC Network because right now the Sweet 16 has 3 teams from Tim Tebow's old conference, the SEC, his alma mater, the Florida Gators, Kentucky, and South Carolina. Was this conference underrated throughout the college basketball season?
I think the top of the conference absolutely was. Like Bruce Pearl, I think he said this a few times, and he is now in his 3rd year at Auburn. Remember, he was at Tennessee. I think he said it the best earlier this year when he stated, look, when I was coaching at Tennessee, and that's going back a decade ago, the league is better now, but the top of the league was not as good as when I was there previously as it is now. That's the one piece that many are taking for granted, I would say. Like Florida was one of the hottest teams in the country in February. Remember, they won those 8 straight games. Like, that's tough to do. That's tough to win at that level when you're battered down in the month of February. I mean, February of in power conference basketball, whether it's the SEC, the ACC, the Big East previously, that's one of the toughest times to win and win consistently. I think Florida was a team that was flying a bit under the radar. Really, really good guards, and a couple of them coming off the bench too. I mean, Kentucky, we know the story there. Really young, so you never know what could happen. Remember Kentucky from a few years ago? They went to the national championship game, or went to the Final Four the year that UConn won it. Very similar, like a young team, and you never knew they could be that team that got bounced early, or they could have been that team that made the run. I think that this year's team can do that as well. They have 2 players that are going to be drafted in the top 10 of this June's NBA draft, in Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox. And then South Carolina, on the other hand, that's one, and Frank Martin, who is a really good head coach and someone who I think doesn't get enough national attention. He said it after the Duke win. We were waiting for offensive basketball like that for a month. They really it was a challenge for them to score the ball for about a month. He was correct. And then it all came out in that one half against Duke. So South Carolina, one of the best defensive teams in the country, and they had been all year. The problem was just was scoring the ball consistently, especially late in the season. Sindarius Thornwell, he might be playing himself into the first round. He really is a senior who is probably their best defensive player, and he's the one who has spurned this run into the Sweet 16. So I think the top of the conference was underrated. There were some bad teams in the SEC. There definitely were. But the top of the conference, I think, was underrated a bit.
It breaks my heart that now we have to talk about the second weekend of the NCAA tournament, and my beloved Syracuse Orange are not playing at all. I know last year they made the Final Four run. It is also your alma mater. But the news is coming about Mike Hopkins and Jim Boeheim. How surprising was it for you, someone who's covered the team before, that Mike Hopkins decides to head out to the Pacific Northwest and Boeheim gets extended?
Yeah, it was a bit of it was surprising. It certainly was. I don't think, a surprise in the moment. I would say overall, though, I'm not totally shocked. I mean, Mike has had the chance to make a move like that in many years. Remember the USC job a couple years ago? He was in the running for that. But I think Mike made absolutely the right decision. Great recruiter. And I think John Wildhack and everyone realized, let's extend Jim Boeheim. And I think Wildhack is a little bit, he is a big Boeheim guy. Remember, Wildhack has his past at ESPN. He was behind in the old Big East days, the ESPN Big East Big Mondays. I mean, it was Wildhack. He's a big Boeheim guy, so I get that. But good for Mike. And, we're hearing the dialogue now of, well, this could be a chance to groom someone like, let's let Jerry McNamara spend a few more years. Is he the guy to take over? Is Autry the guy to take over? Guys, remember, there are some really, really good coaches that are out there right now. And just, they do not have the Syracuse ties. I don't think that's the end of the world. I wouldn't be totally against a separation, I guess if you will, from the last 40 years or so. I think we're hearing a lot of the Jerry McNamara, Autry. That's a great route. Remember, there's an Archie Miller out there. Dan Hurley is as good of a coach as anyone out there right now. Buzz Williams. I mean, remember, there are really good coaches out there right now. So in a few years, after Jim does step aside, and I guess at this point it's tough to gauge because we had thought, well, after this upcoming season was going to be the time to step away. Just remember, there are some really, really good coaches out there that, you don't want to throw to the wayside just because there isn't that Syracuse connection there.
Kevin Fitzgerald, if it's all right with you, we're going to bug you during the baseball season because you somehow ended up with the most interesting job in all of baseball.
Bring it on. Hey, by the way, not the first time. Ricky Williams was here.
Oh.
Chris Wenke played in this league. But this is a little bit different, of course. Those two, their baseball careers were before the football, before their football careers had taken center stage. But you're right. I mean, it is a national figure that will be here in this league. So we'll be talking soon, I guess, guys.
Kevin, have a great day, and I hope you have great calls for the Fireflies.
All right. Thanks so much, guys. Take care.